Hello and welcome. Today we've got Ishmael Perez, and today we are going to be discussing about the origin of the White Hats and also the latest updates in what's happening galactically, energetically, how we're supposed to be feeling, and where we are exactly with the war. If you find that anyone in your family or in your friends are waking up, you might want to share this video with them so that we can wake up as many people as possible. Ishmael, thank you for joining me, sir. How are you and what have you been up to?
I'm great. Thank you for having me here again. It's always a pleasure to converse with you and, give you updates and stuff. I'm excited. Good things are unfolding for humanity. We are living in biblical times or prophetic times. And, we are at the finish line, my friend. I know it sounds like, we've been hearing, well, when is EBS going to come in? When are they going to roll out the new system? But, it is a process. It is a process, and people just need to be patient. One of the big indicators that the forces of good, the Alliance and the Whiteheads have been very prevalent in the neutralization and destabilization of the dark side agenda is the fact that they didn't force the mark of the beast on everyone. And the whole plan was to eventually get up to the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, booster. And that whole thing was stopped. And also they were going to actually, how can I say, they were going to get everyone on board. They were going to make it mandatory, like where they were going to knock on people's door and people had to show that they've been, what I mean, can I say what I mean?
Oh, yeah, we're on Rumble. We can say whatever we want, of course.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. So
Sure.
The whole plan, if it wasn't for the White Hats, by now, everybody would have had the mark of the beast, the shot. Everybody would have been on their 4th and 5th booster. And thank God for the White Hats, because, they are the ones that stopped them. And one of the things that I would like to discuss right now, before we get into the origin of the White Hats, is Putin. Putin is a hero. Despite of what the media says, that guy is actually the White Hats' #1 tool right now. And if it wasn't for what Putin is doing, Nicholas, you could have, we could have seen that was going to actually be kill off, 3/4 of the world population within months. And so, unfortunately, yeah, there are some casualties, but it's best to have a few thousand casualties than having billions of people perish. So what Putin is doing is very heroic, and he is our man right now, and that is the biblical prophecy when it comes to the idea that the king of the East will rise against the king of the West. Well, who do you think the king of the West is? The corrupt globalist agenda, the deep state that is running pretty much the show. A lot of this is in the book of Revelation. So what we're witnessing is a play out of the book of Revelation, where the king of the East rises against the king of the West. And in this case, the king of the East is the good guy. He's the one who puts a stop to the malicious agendas of the king of the West. And he has, if it wasn't for what he's doing right now, again, the deep state would have unleashed thank God for Putin. He is our guy right now.
Of course. He's hated by the media and the Rothschild because he's not adopting the dollar. He's backed the ruble currency by gold, which I think a few countries have done that. Also, he's destroyed 13 bioweapon labs in Ukraine for those who are catching up with what's going on, who were the deep state were going to use to humanity. I think Agenda 30 or something like that.
Well, they were going to roll it out before 2030. They were going to roll it out by 2024. Yeah.
This is it. So the New World Order has failed, and Putin has said that to his people as well in his conferences, that the New World Order has failed. The media, the West wants them to think that Putin is a bad person because he's told the Rockefellers and the Rothschild, the deep state, that the New World Order is no longer welcome in his land. And I hear the other day, or the other week maybe, that Putin has made the Tartarian history public in Russia. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that, please?
Sure. Like I said, as the good guy, he's doing his best to bring about the truth. And you're right. You're absolutely right. He's going totally against the NWO's plans. And he's actually the first one to implement Gesera. I do believe that Russia already has the Goldback standard. And it's just a matter of time before, the rest of the countries adapt it. But the fact that he's bringing back the history of Tartaria is historical. It's monumental because this was a part of our history that was deliberately erased from all records. The fact that we've had advanced zero-point energy technology for hundreds of years, and the fact that this beautiful, glorious society did exist is something that will be part of the disclosure. And I believe that Putin is the one leading that way. And I don't know if Tartaria was actually in Russia, but many believe that it was a European civilization. And we don't know exactly when it did flourish, but we do know that there is evidence that it did flourish. And I believe that part of this disclosure is, bringing forth the real history of the earth. And it was not just Tartaria, it's also civilizations like the Catharians, the troubadours. These were societies that were very spiritually advanced and very high in as far as like free energy devices and hover cars and anti-gravity aircraft and everything that we now see in sci-fi. They had already implemented the beginnings of that. And of course, they were squashed by the secret societies that were working for the Luciferian Brotherhood in order to keep this planet, codependent on the petrochemical and the multi-billion-dollar corporations that have been running this planet for the last few hundred years. So all that stuff is part of the disclosure, my friend. And Putin is leading the way. The guy is obviously a hero.
Absolutely. So would you say what the Tartarian Empire was a part of the White Hat origin?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And so it was the Catharian society that existed in France and the troubadours that existed in Spain. These were societies that flourished for about 200 years in peace. And they had no, their system was one of where everybody lived in peace and in harmony with one another. There was no haves and have-nots. There was no poor. There was no, everybody kind of contributed by virtue of their talents and bartering. And we're heading back there. We are heading back to that system. So yeah, Tartaria was definitely the most advanced within the last period of 1,000 years, you could say. It was like a glimpse of a miniature Atlantis that all of a sudden flourished, but then it was suppressed.
So are you saying that once upon a time in our history, because our history has been changed, manipulated, and we've been lied to, and things have been taken out and put in that are false and fabricated, would you say that once upon a time we had flying cars going around, exactly what we see in the movies?
I believe so. And I believe that Tartaria civilization was that. And it flourished for a few hundred years, by the way.
And how long ago?
I think it happened about 1,000 years ago. It was at the peak of a little less than 1,000 years ago.
So do you think, please?
It was a civilization that was actually established by members of the inner earth that were living in, that were cooperating with surface dwellers who were aligned with the Brotherhood of Light, right? Well, the White Hats back then. Again, the White Hats have always existed. That's why I want to give a brief explanation of their origin. But that's how Tartaria came about. It was a collaborated project that was made by members of the Inner Earth Society who are already, 1,000 years ahead of us. And of course, some of the you could say some of the galactics that are also working from behind the scenes. And then, of course, members of the White Hats that were all working together to bring forth these healing devices, free energy. And they actually existed, for I think 200 years before they were destroyed by the rise of the Holy Roman Empire, which is, of course, the Cabal in those days.
So if we had flying cars and all this lovely free energy technology like the sci-fi movies we have today, which, by the way, Hollywood wants us to think it's just fiction, then what does that say for the time of Jesus, when we were shown through movies that the time of Jesus, the Jesus time, it was all very poor? Maybe that they lived a very sci-fi kind of technological, lifestyle. What do you think about that?
Well, again, it all boils down to the fact that the white hats during Jesus's day, because Jesus was a white hat, him and Mary Magdalene were the leaders of a secret society called the Community of Qumran, or the Essenes, and they were separated from the rest of the Roman Empire in order to live in harmony and, to live in balance with nature. And they did have some of this technology because, from what I understand, is Jesus also had contact with the inner earth civilization. See, a lot of this tech has always been preserved by the inner earth society, and nobody really talks about who these inner earth societies are. They have been around since the, for thousands of years. They were the remnant survivors of the ancient Atlantean and Lemurian cataclysms. And so they've been around for thousands of years, and they've always, when they saw that there were certain members in the surface world that were spiritually evolved to understand and to use this technology for good, they would collaborate with them. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Community of Qumran that was run by Jesus and Mary Magdalene, who were the white hats 2,000 years ago, by the way, that's where we could trace the white hats back to, by the way, in our current scenario, back to Jesus and Mary Magdalene. But really, we could trace them all the way back to Atlantis and then technically off-world. But I believe that, that could have been the case, because how is it that this private civilization or this private community was able to live without depending on the resources of the Roman Empire? Well, they had to have some sort of alternative technology, some sort of alternative resources that allow them to flourish again for a period of about a few hundred years. And then, of course, after, well, there's many, theories about that. Some people believe he survived the crucifixion. Some people believe he died in the crucifixion, and then later he went to India. But of course, after they put an end to his teachings, but again, this is something that is right now, we could call it speculation, but I believe that the truth will come out. The true history of the earth will come out eventually,
What is the inner earth society? Is that a society inside of the earth that's not on the surface? And if so, could you please elaborate on that?
Sure, yeah. So basically, after the cataclysm that destroyed the ancient civilization of Lemuria, some of these survivors that were actually beings that came from other worlds that lived in peace here in our world, fled to the inner earth in order to continue their peaceful living. And then also some of the survivors of the Atlantean cataclysm also joined them. And they are members of the galactic community that are still positively interacting with members of the Galactic Federation and so on and so forth. And so they live in the inner earth, because see, most people think that everything we've been taught is true regarding like the mantle and the core. It's not like that. The earth is hollow, my friend, just like most planets and like the moon. It is a honeycomb decked out, where they have an inner sun, they have rivers, they have lakes, they have mountain ridges. Everything we have on the surface, there is an equivalent in the inner earth. And they, due to the gravity effect, when they look up at the sky, they're actually inverted like this, but it's the gravity, right? And so when they look up at the sky, they see their sun. So to them, they also have a sky, they also have a sun. It's no different than the surface world. The only difference between them and us is that they still have a 12-strand DNA. In other words, they still live for thousands and thousands of years. So in some cases, when they do interact with us, they appear to be immortal because they keep coming back. They keep coming back every so and so when they see that a group of us is enlightened enough to receive the information. And so they've been around for thousands of years. In fact, they are helping us. They are helping the Alliance. They're helping the White Hats from behind the scenes, of course. And the only reason that they never made a public appearance is because every time they tried, the Cabal would try to, I guess, shoot them down or try to suppress them, and so they're waiting for the elimination of the Cabal in order for them to reunite with the surface world. They go by many names. Some people call them the Agarthians. Some people call them the Shambalans, the Ansharans. We also hear of Telos, which is located underneath Mount Shasta. But it is a vast network, my friend. It is a vast network of inner Earth societies that are about, 500 to 1,000 years ahead of us in as far as like technology is concerned. But at the same time, they are at a very heightened level of consciousness, to the point where like they're all considered Christed beings, very loving, beautiful beings that are just, all they want for us is just to also reach enlightenment on the surface world so that they could reunite with us. And that's all they've been waiting for.
So if they are the remnants of previous, good societies before the Cabal has taken over to disrupt, humanity, how comes the Cabal have not been able to also infiltrate their civilizations in the inner Earth society as well?
Oh, they tried. Yeah, Hitler was... he tried accessing the portals. Okay, so the main portals to the inner Earth is in the North Pole and the South Pole. And those are the major ways or inner paths to go in. But there are innumerable others, but those are the main ones. They tried, but luckily the inner Earth dwellers, because of their advanced psychic abilities, they foresee things before they happen, and they're able to create an illusion or to prevent the Stargate from opening up. So the Stargate will not open, the portals will not open unless they allow it. So throughout history, members of the Cabal of the Luciferian secret societies have always known that. They've known that a vast civilizations have existed in the inner Earth for thousands of years, and they have tried to make access. I think even Alexander the Great, also the Roman Empire, the leaders of those civilizations knew about that, and they tried to access them. They couldn't. They kept getting blocked off because of the fact that the members of the inner Earth do not want any of that contamination. They call it. They call us here in the surface world a contaminated society, but they're referring to the Cabal and really, the programmed humans that are abiding to the laws. So they've been very how can I say it? They've been very what's the word I'm looking for? Caution. They've been very caution as to, who is making contact with them, who's trying to access the portals, and they have guarded those portals very carefully for thousands of years. And that's the only reason why the Cabal has failed. But Hitler almost made contact with them. Hitler was actually, with the help of the Draco, he accessed one of the portals, and he did have, he was able to not peek, but also go into the inner Earth. And immediately the inner Earth dwellers shut down the Nazis. Hitler went in there with his, because he was the first one to develop anti-gravity aircraft. He was given the tech before the other globalists inherited it. And at the same time, the inner Earth society was able to counteract that and block Hitler from totally penetrating the inner Earth, because Hitler knew about that. Hitler knew that, okay, I'm going to take over the surface world, but I also have to take over the inner Earth. So his next step was to take over the inner Earth, and he failed, but he did manage to break through. He was the only one actually who managed to break through with the help of the Draco.
So what did the members of the inner Earth society actually look like if we were to compare them to normal human beings who live on the surface?
They look like me and you, except they're anywhere from 7 to 8 feet tall. They're a little taller than us. So they're extremely tall. The males, the females vary from 5'9" to 5'10" to 6 feet. Even the females are pretty tall. So there are some that are not completely humanoid. Some of them are they have a different type of biological body that is not necessarily human, but they live in harmony with different species and extraterrestrials from different galaxies or different solar systems. And that's what the inner Earth society is. It is a harmonious living among many different extraterrestrial cultures that used to once exist on the surface world during Atlantean and Lemurian times, and then had, of course, gone into the inner earth for protection and refuge when the Cabal and their Orion, Draco overlords destroyed those ancient civilizations. So they look, for the most part, they look like us. They're humanoid.
Let's talk about the ones that look like us. Do they wear clothes?
They wear white robes. Yeah, they don't wear necessarily shirts like me and you. They don't wear jeans because they are an advanced spiritual race. For the most part, they all look like high priests and high priestesses. So they're either wearing the white robes, or some of them, have their spacesuits on. And those are the ones that are actually involved with the galactic community.
So if they live in the hollow earth, far deep in the earth, is it still considered sort of outside? Because I saw like a whole cave in Vietnam that was recently found that was full of big forests, and the sunlight would come through, but it was really, really deep in the ground. Was it similar to that, or can they see the sky?
No, they don't see our sky. They see their sky because there's an inner sun in there. And when they look up, they see what we see. They have a blue sky, but it is the inner earth sky. So the inner earth is, again, it's like a replica of the surface world, but existing within inside the earth. And so, they look just like we do. We couldn't even distinguish if they wanted to come out to the surface, we would see them as tall beings, but they still have human-like features. And they do wear white robes.
What do you mean about their own sky and sun? I mean, wouldn't they see the crust of the earth from below, or am I missing something?
Oh, well, the way it exists in the inner earth is that, we're standing like this on the surface. Well, in the inner earth, they're standing like this due to the gravity effect of the planet. And then the inner sun is at the center. So they also have some sort of an artificial sky, that gives them sunlight. The only thing is that they don't have nighttime. It's always light because the inner earth dwellers only sleep 2 hours in 24 hours. They don't require the sleep that we do. They only nap once a day or once in a full 24-hour cycle for only 2 hours, and they're good. And then the rest of the time, they're enjoying life, living in leisure. They have beautiful art, music, all of that stuff that we enjoy here in the surface world. They enjoy it, but in peace, because there is no cabal,
How do they live? I mean, do they have technologies? Do they have, do they live, how do they travel? I mean, what technologies do they have? I mean, how advanced are they?
They have spacecraft. They have, hover cars. Some of them are really advanced where they just teleport. They don't need external technology. But for the ones that exist in the fourth dimension, yes, they do access, or they do utilize technologies. So all the stuff that we see in sci-fi, they have that in the inner earth. But it's all technologies that are healthy to their environment. They don't use anything that pollutes. There is no pollution down there. The oxygen down there is pure, in other words.
And this was, this goes all the way back to Atlantis. And this is why, we've been, completely lied to about our history. They want to lie to us about old empires that were here that would live in harmony and would have great technologies. And now we're using technologies that create EMF and closing our pineal glands. They're controlling us. They're creating more health diseases, which makes more money for big pharma, which is another pillar of the matrix. Right. So where I lost my train of thought now, where I wanted to go with my next question.
About the inner earth people?
Mm.
The whole point is that they are working with the White Hats, in secret, and they've been having our back for thousands of years. Some believe that there was times where they would appear to members of the White Hats in different periods of time in order to give them more information and more knowledge and more technology. And that's how I think Tartaria came about. They saw that a group of surface dwellers were uncorrupted and were pure and righteous, and so that's why they were able to inherit that technology. And that's how Tartaria came about. It was a collaboration between the inner earth people, who always acted as our brothers and sisters, and they've always had our back.
this is what I wanted to ask you. So, how about land that's below the ocean that is wiped out from our history?
Well, that's all part of the inner Earth. When Admiral Byrd discovered what was beyond Antarctica, he was seeing glimpses of the inner Earth. He actually had access to one of the portals in the South Pole, and he tried to give a description of what it looked like. He says that there are actually continents and lands that exist beyond Antarctica, and what he meant was like he had access to view what it's like to see what's in the inner Earth.
How did he have access to see it? As in,
Um,
like a meditation that way, a remote viewing, or
No, no, no. There was some activity going on, something to do with the Nazis that were already exploring Antarctica, and so Admiral Byrd, in his effort to try to understand what was going on and infiltrate the Nazis, he was actually contacted by a member of the Inner Earth Society, and he was taken down there. So he was given permission to go through the portal, and then that's when he witnessed, and that's when he saw all these other continents that exist beyond the Antarctic region. I can't even say it, but that's when he saw all these continents. It was never about a flat Earth or land beyond the wall. There is no wall. It was about the land underneath the Earth, and that's what really happened. And he reported that. He told the government, "Hey guys, you guys think we're the only ones? There's another society living underneath the Earth, and they have everything we have: mountains, continents. They have cities. They have oceans, rivers, lakes. Everything we have, they have." Except, it's more of a pure civilization down there. They don't have all the bad stuff that we have here on the surface.
there must be other continents on the ocean that they have removed from the maps that we see, the mainstream world map that we're taught in school, that we see on the globe when we're at school. Um, do you believe that there's other land on there that they don't show us and they've hidden from us?
There could be, but I do believe that the Earth is a sphere. I don't buy the flat Earth theory. That to me, that's a psyops. I believe it could be, but it's probably related to the inner Earth continents, the inner Earth societies. That's where all the lands are, the hidden lands. It has nothing to do with Earth being a pancake. It's pretty much the Earth is a hollow sphere, and just as above, below, it's the exact same thing. So that's my
what? Please.
Yeah, so I don't buy into the flat Earth concept. And a lot of people attack me because they think that I should believe that the Earth is flat and there's a dome, but there is no dome.
Well, you're entitled to your own opinion, and I'm sure people respect that, because in this community where we believe in freedom, we believe in free will, free speech, and we're all entitled to share our own opinions and respect each other's views. And I respect your views too. I wanted to ask, why is it that the government have a problem with people just flying to Antarctica?
Because it's a secret region. There's a lot of secrets that are being unearthed at this time that has a lot to do with a recuperation of ancient technologies that could be dated back to millions of years ago, beyond Atlantis. And so that's why they want to keep that a secret. But from what I understand is that the Earth Alliance is recuperating that land from the Dark Hats, because for the last 60, 70 years, Antarctica has been used as a place where the Dark Fleet, the Nazi Draco secret alliance, built their craft and developed their structures in order to go and colonize our solar system, and then hence different parts of the galaxy. So for many years, they were being used by the Dark Fleet. And so right now, as I speak, a lot of that stuff is being recuperated by the White Hats. And I think that when it comes to disclosure, a lot of it is all settled around the secrets and the artifacts that they are discovering in Antarctica. And all that stuff will be revealed,
Tell me, where are we right now with energetically in this war? How close are we to the end?
We're at the finish line. We are at the finish line. Yeah, we're almost there. And one of the ways to feel or to see that we're almost there is the fact that Putin is putting an end to the NWO. So the torch went over to Putin, And so the fact that he is dismantling the NWO is a big indicator that we're almost there. It's just a matter of time before, before the alliance dismantles, the people in power in Australia, in Canada, and then the rest of the world. So it's going to continue, and it's not going to lead to a nuclear holocaust. The Galactics and the Inner Earth Society already made it clear, and they told Putin, you cannot press the red button. So all these rumors of is all fake news generated by the media to keep us in fear mode.
Are you saying that a chess game is being played on the globe board game? It's not a flat board, it's a globe board being played, chess. If it's not Trump, it's Putin.
Yeah, well, Trump,
they are the pieces.
And drain out the swamp here, and then hence the swamp in the entire planet. But of course, the Dark Hats cheated, and so now the torch of liberation went over to Putin. But they're still part of the same team. They're friends. From behind the scenes, they're friends, and that explains.
Must have, please, that explains.
And that explains why when Trump was in office, he was trying to see what the connection was between the president of the Ukraine. And a lot of that had to do with the secret buildup of massive biological weapons. That's, Hunter and his father were involved in the last 30 years, and the Clintons, and of course the Bushes.
So this must have been premeditated with Trump and Putin. If there's many options and variables. If Trump wins, this would happen. If he didn't win, then this and this and this would happen. And they had these options available,
exactly.
For them to make sure they drain the swamp.
Yeah, exactly. So they already had plan B in the event that then they were going to give the torch over to Putin. Okay. But Trump was supposed to be the one that was supposed to be doing what Putin is doing. But he couldn't, but he's still working from behind the scenes. He's still our president, technically.
He could be. I mean, he's a commander in chief and the president of the United States, but of the Republic, not the corporation, because maybe president of the United States of the corporation, which is probably bankrupt, which makes his position illegal. What do you think about that?
I think that is the case. Yeah. Those guys don't have any more resources. I think the entire financial system has been cut off. It's like they don't have any more resources anymore. They're done with.
So when you say that we're at the finish line, I mean, what do you mean? Do you mean we're 6 months away? Do you mean we're 2-3 years away? Are we 10 years away? What do you mean by finish line?
I would say months or less. It could be at the end of this year, but I don't foresee this going on more than a year or two. I think it's going to happen sooner than what we think.
But especially
with the success that Putin is having. If it wasn't for what Putin is doing, then this could have been prolonged for another 10 years. But the guy he's working so hard for the alliance, and unfortunately, people are seeing him as the bad guy. But those are people that are still programmed.
And also, the media is so corrupt, and they're always pushing that he's the bad guy. And I actually did speak to a Ukrainian person, and they agreed when I had suggested that maybe the deep state military are attacking their own people in Ukraine, so they could blame and point the finger to Putin, and it all creates propaganda because they're upset that Putin has destroyed the 13 bioweapon labs. And I spoke to someone in Ukraine, and they agreed that this is the story they're hearing as well in Ukraine, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah, that's true. That is so true, my friend.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're the ones that are causing all the casualties, because, Putin wouldn't deliberately hurt innocent people. He's trying to do everything in his power to
Well, Ishmael Perez, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on my show. Thank you so much for joining me. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Yeah, I'm going to be going on a book tour in the next 2 to 3 weeks, traveling around the state. So I'm going to just, keep everybody updated as far as like where I'm going to be at, in case you guys want to, get a book sign or meet me. Yeah, so I'm just going to let everyone know. And other than that, yeah, stay in your power. Don't give yourself away to fear porn. It's just a matter of time before it trickles out for the rest of the public to hear. And yeah, we're there.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Ishmael. We'll speak again very soon. God bless you. Bye bye.